So if the legislature approves the extra 1% in income tax, then there wouldn't need to be a phase two, or there would still be things that you'd have to prepare for from because of the local investment, or did you already cover that?
Some of the things in phase two that we're talking about, for instance, we're looking at our insurance plan, for instance, our health insurance plan for employees, looking at ways to factor in the better experience that we've had, negotiating harder with our providers, trying to lower that cost. Some of those kinds of things, the savings kinds of things, we'll do anyway. We'll continue to do, and that will give us a little bit of a cushion against whatever might happen in the future. The personnel parts, obviously, we don't want to release personnel, so obviously we would reinstate those. If they were to come through with that money, we would bring back as many people as we could.
Now, obviously, not going into specifics because you can't until a formal plan is put together and released. Are teachers' jobs going to be? Could those be on the table?
I think absolutely we have to look at that because that's our largest remaining workforce. We probably will have to look at least doing some reduction in force to be able to shuffle positions and then call people back. Hopefully we can recall everybody that we put on a RIF list. What we're going to try to do is first not replace retirees. If they retire, we'll try to shuffle staff and cover those without replacing from outside. We'll look at, again, we still have 12 positions in there to expand for growth. We may look at not filling those 12 positions and shuffling class sizes if we can make those work without being completely unsafe and uneducational. We'll try to shuffle those, and that would be another 12 positions we wouldn't fill. So that would give us 20 positions basically that aren't causing us to lose a person in the teaching staff. So we would start with things like that. Hopefully by doing that and by being intelligent about this, we will probably end up doing a RIF of some sort, shuffling people around and then recalling everybody.
Now, I read on the website, which is Oswego308.org, you can see they constantly update their website. It's a wonderful resource for anyone who cares about the district, that you send a letter to Governor Quinn with suggestions of your own on how to avoid this big cut in education spending. If you could just briefly explain what you had proposed to the governor.
Sure. My proposal to the governor, it was very generic. I wanted it to be a one-page letter on the webpage. I knew we'd get all kinds of suggestions. But I think the state has basically a three-pronged problem. I think that a big part of the problem is the pension system. As long as people can borrow or take money from that pension system, it's always going to have trouble. So my first suggestion was to pass a law that stops anybody, whether an individual or a group, from borrowing from the pension system, and then adjust the pension system through an actuarial study. Maybe you change the contribution rates, maybe you change the plan itself and how long it is before you can retire, what your cost of living increases are, etc. Many of these things are already being talked about in bits and pieces. I just suggested they pull it all together in a comprehensive pension reform. The second piece was to reduce expenditures across the board. Obviously, we're in a situation in the state level where we're spending more than we have to bring in. So we have to borrow money, we have to shuffle money around to make payments. We're behind on our payments for this year. School districts, for instance, our local school district is about $5 million behind on what we're owed from the state this year, which causes us cash flow problems, which causes us to borrow money, which costs us money. So my suggestion was reduce the expenses. At the same time, you look at the tax structure in the state and redo taxes so that it would be fair, would generate revenue to offset some of the deficit that we have, and still be a program that would generate new jobs and draw businesses into the state.
And if I understand the governor's address correctly on Wednesday, in his proposal to have the state borrow money, that would be to avoid the district having to borrow money then, right?
Yes.
So that they can pay you first, and then the debt goes to them, and well, then you can just push it off to the side and let Springfield worry about it, right?
Exactly, and that's kind of what we've been doing at the state level, as I understand it, for a couple of years now. So.
When we want to touch a few positive things as well, though, because there's so much fear with the district and what's going to be coming around the bend with potential layoffs and reductions, but there are good things happening in Oswego as well. And before we end, we do want to mention those things. One of them is 4 Oswego School District schools earning top state honors.
Yes.
If you could explain that for our viewers. Absolutely.
Very proud of the fact that 3 of our elementaries and Oswego East High School were named to the Illinois Honor Roll, which basically means that they have consistently high scores scores, high test scores, or are improving at a dramatic rate. In Oswego East case, they're improving. Their ACT scores and their Prairie State scores are moving up drastically, and that put them in the top 100 schools in the state, 100 high schools in the state as far as their scores were concerned. So we're very proud of that, very happy for them. Dr. Jeff Craig and his staff doing a great job at Oswego East. And then Homestead Elementary, Prairie Point Elementary, and the Wheatlands Elementaries all were named to the Illinois Honor Roll for maintaining consistently high scores. And it's really ironic that we're talking about all this budget stuff, because what we should be talking about is the great job these kids are doing. They're scoring at in the high 90s up to 100% meeting and exceeding state standards in some of these schools. And so these guys are doing a great job. And we just want to say congratulations to them. Outstanding job. Patty Decker at Homestead, Heidi Pajaski at Prairie Point, and Janet DeMont at the Wheatlands. I had to stop and think a minute. I told you I would forget somebody's name.
Well, you have many schools and
yes,
personnel to think about.
Yes, but they've done an excellent job. The staff, I was at a Homestead faculty meeting just a couple of mornings ago. Great, young, enthusiastic staff, great leadership team. I can't say enough about our folks. And through all of this bad news and all of this crisis, they're giving an excellent education to our kids, and I can't thank them enough.
And of course, when you talk about these budget reductions, and you think about the fact that you might have less teachers, less opportunities for these students, they're doing so well now, you would hate to take a step back for that. So just another message to Springfield to get things together and make sure that these reductions don't happen, whether it be, well, you were talking beforehand, you think that they'll probably come to some mix between reductions and revenue increases.
That would be my guess. And in talking to a myriad of people around the state in different levels of government and other superintendents, we talk about possibilities. I don't think that a 17% decrease to education is palatable to legislators. I also think that I don't think that the tax increase as proposed, if it's not part of a larger solution, is going to have a hard time being approved as well. So I think that they'll probably come to some solution that's somewhere in the middle of those two solutions.
We were also talking before the show began that you really walked into it, didn't you? Starting last year, and you come into a situation like this. You have a lot of years' experience in being a superintendent and an administrator, but this is probably more than you had bargained for when you came to Oswego.
Right. Well, I retired in Missouri, so I was used to the Missouri system. And when I came to Oswego, when I first started going through the interview process, I did a lot of research about the district, saw all the great things that were going on academically, and realized there were some local problems that were going to be happening over the next couple of years with finance because of the equalized assessed valuation crashing, the low CPI, and all those things. So I knew that there were going to be some difficulties on the local level. I didn't realize the depth of the problem at the state level, so that was a little bit of a surprise. But as my friend said the other day, they said, "And you retired to come up here to do this?" And I said, "Yes, and I'm enjoying it. It's a great district, and I know that we'll continue to work with the state and hopefully get those problems resolved, and we'll move on."
We're almost out of time here, but I do want to mention, of course, we'll be replaying this various times throughout the weekend, but for our first viewers, those watching us live, you have something you'd like to say, I'm sure, to Oswego High School's basketball team?
Absolutely. Go Panthers. We're taking on DeKalb tonight, New Hampshire, in the sectional finals. So good luck to the guys. They're hoping to get another trip downstate this year, so we're rooting for them. We'll be at the ball game. Go Panthers.
It should be an exciting one, and of course our own Jim Teckenbrock will be there to cover it for WSPY Radio. Well, Dr. O'Donnell, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you giving as much information as you could fit into a half hour here about the budget, and remind our viewers once more that you can go to the meeting on Monday at 7 o'clock at Oswego East High School in their auditorium and voice your concerns and comments and hear